Hello gorgeous, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ara and I have a very exciting video for you today. I picked up some new luxury products. The new Chanel 2023 Face and Eye Palette and the new Hermes bronzer. These are so beautiful and this is such a toned down look from what I usually do. Very easy and neutral, kind of everyday work friendly. Well, minus the red lipstick, which I'll get into. But this is definitely something I can see myself wearing on an everyday basis. And it's very simple and easy to achieve. And if you want to see how I did it, let's get into it. Ooh, I look rough. I need to do something about this face. I'm going to start off with my Tatcha Liquid Silk Canvas. I won't be doing any color correcting today. I'm just gonna try to keep this a simple look. Going in now with the Chanel No. 1 Day Chanel foundation. I have mine in the shade BR12. This foundation has a very pleasing light scent. If you are sensitive to scents in your foundation, I would not recommend this one. It's not overpowering, but it does have a scent. Taking my Tom Ford Traceless Soft Matte Concealer. I like this brush because it can kind of get into all of the little nooks and crannies. And it has just enough give and flexibility to it. This concealer is a natural finish, more of a light medium coverage. I'm going to set that concealer with my Sicily Powder No. 1 Iris A on my Sonia G Detail Pro brush. This is my favorite brush to set concealer with. Taking that same Sicily powder now on a Sigma Beauty X Kristen Dominique powder brush. And I'm just gonna set the rest of my face with it. I'm just going to lightly set my foundation. I don't want to use too much powder. This is my foundation with concealer and setting powder. Going in now with the new Chanel Spring 2023 launch. This is the new blush and eyeshadow quad in the shade 957 Tendresse. It is called Les Four Rouges. I don't speak French, so I'm not going to speak the rest of it, but this is what the palette looks like. It's got two beautiful red shades here that you can use for blush or eyeshadow, a neutral shade that I want to try to use as contour, and a pinky highlight shade. I'm going to start off with the more neutral shade here and just kind of use it more as a contour. And I'm going to pick that up on my Sigma Kristen Dominique brush, the Face Contour brush. And I'm just going to kind of gently go into it here. I'm not really sure how this shade will look as contour, but I want to try it. It's not bad. It is a very subtle shade, which I think would be great for more mature skin and very simple everyday work looks. I'm gonna switch brushes now. I'm gonna swap over to the eye and nose contour brush, and I'm just gonna pick that up here on my brush and kind of shape my nose with it. I'm not sure how well this would work for contour if you're a deeper skin tone than mine. And again, my foundation shade in these Chanel foundations is BR12. Before I go in and do the rest of my face, I'm going to use the new Hermes bronzer that just launched for spring. I have Hermes Plein Air. I definitely didn't pronounce it correctly. I am sorry. English is my only language. Mine is in the shade 01 Totori. This is what the bronzer looks like. It does have a little bit of shimmer in it. I'm not sure how well that'll translate onto the face. However, it is composed of 3 different shades here. The compact itself is nicely weighted. It does not have a magnetic closure. It is a snap closure. And it does have a beautiful mirror here that you can use if you need to. I haven't even swatched this yet, so let me go ahead and swatch it with you. On my broken fingernail, I'll pick up one of every shade if I can. These are what the shades look like. Let me see if I can there we go. So this is each of the bronzer shades. And I'm just gonna go into it here and just pick up a little bit on this side of my brush. Just kind of see how it does. It does have a scent to it. It's a nice scent. I wouldn't say it's as pleasant or as soft as the Chanel scent in the foundation, but it's not bad. Ooh, it's a little bit orangey on my skin tone. Not really sure if you can see that on camera. Not overly fond of orangey bronzers. I like more neutral or cool toned bronzers. I've been trying to convince Martina Lily to pick up one of these bronzers and do a review. As I buff it out, it's starting to look quite a bit better on my skin. I always start in the corner because I have kind of a receding hairline, thinning hairline here, kind of get it into my hairline, and then I work that excess product over. I'm gonna take some of that bronzer down my neck a bit just because I like to have a little bit of that color on my neck. You do not have to do this step if you don't want to. Okay, I really like how this is looking. I think the bronzer itself, it's very subtle, but the formula is really soft. The scent is not overpowering. I built it up quite a bit. This is the shade Built Up, but I do think if you just use one layer, one go over, you can have a more natural bronzed look if you are my skin tone or lighter. I'm gonna go back in with that Sisley powder and I'm gonna use my Wayne Goss number S24 brush and carve out my cheeks. Okay, now that we've done that, I'm gonna go back into the Chanel quad and I'm gonna do my cheeks and my eyes with it. We're gonna use this as an entire face palette, outside of the bronzer, of course, to see how well this performs. And I'm actually very excited to use this because I think I can get away with using just this palette for everything. I wouldn't really need to work up the contour for work or just something everyday natural. I'm gonna go into the shade Medium here on my Refer 24 brush. I'm just gonna keep picking up a generous amount on my brush. Oh, I may have picked up a little too much. It definitely picked up quite a bit. I'll just spread that over here a bit. I'll definitely need to buff this blush out. I kind of overdid it. That's a very lovely shade. It's more of a corally peach. I overdid it on this cheek, so I will be buffing this out a bit. Otherwise, absolutely beautiful shade. Picking up the shade Claire on my Sonia G Mini Cheek, And I'm gonna use that as highlight. It's a very subtle highlight, but it is very forgiving on my skin. It's not really texturizing. And I think I can actually build this up a little bit more. Okay, I did my brows off camera. I used the Melt Brow Gel and brow pen. Okay, going in with the taupe shade on my Sonia G Jumbo Blender. And I'm going to pick that up and buff that all along my crease. My eyes are already primed. I used the Kaleidos eye primer. Switching brushes now, going into the medium coral shade. And I'm gonna use that on my Sonia G S2 brush. I'm just gonna build that up on most of my lid and into the crease. I'm really having to build it up on my lids, but that's how most shades are with Chanel. They're very subtle shades. They're not typically high impact. I'm gonna bring it up to my crease where I placed the first shadow and just kind of buff it into it. There we go. I'm gonna take that same Sonia G S2 brush and pick up that same shade and just kind of sweep it under my lash line. And bring it up here into the corner to meet. Switching brushes now, I'm gonna go into a Sonia G Soft Definer and pick up the dark shade in the palette. And just pick that up along the tip of the brush. Oop, without dog fur, of course. And I'm gonna build that up on my outer corner. This shade is definitely picking up a little bit better than the corally shade. I'm gonna get most of that product off of my brush here in the outer corner. And then just gently sweep it inwards. I'm going to bring down below my lash line and just meet that outer corner. Switching brushes one more time, I'm gonna go back into that original brush that we used and buff out this outer corner. No additional product. I apologize for all the background noise. It is a beautiful sunny spring day, so people are outside working in their garden. Switching brushes now, I'm gonna go into the light shade here on my Sonia G Flat Definer. I'm gonna bring that down along the lower lash inner corner, whatever you want to call it, and gently sweep it up into my crease. It's not as bright of a shade as I was hoping, at least not for an inner corner highlight. I'm gonna go back in one more time with this light medium shade and just gently pat around the edges to give this more of a blend. Okay, eyes are done. I finished off with some liquid liner here on the outer corners. Put on some of my Ardell lashes in the style 814 Faux Mink. I'm gonna go in now with the DIOR Backstage powder in number 1, and I'm just gonna buff along those edges. I always like to go in with a powder and buff out my cheeks. You certainly don't have to, but if you ever bring your blush down too low, this is a trick to get your blush to blend in with your face just a little bit better. And because I like to have a little bit more of a shiny, glowy look, I'm gonna go in with my Chantecaille Lotus Perfect Blur powder and buff along the exterior of my face. I'm gonna pick that up on the same brush. And I'm just gonna kind of go along the perimeter of my face. But it is a glowy pressed finishing powder, and I do like that. Now that I have my face looking the way I want it, I'm gonna go in with my Charlotte Tilbury setting spray. And I'm going to spray this all over. Usually I do it before I do my lashes, but it is what it is. Before moving on, I want to mention that I used a nude liner in my waterline. This is the ColourPop Gel Cream Liner in the shade Honey Dude. And I used my MAC Max Stack Mascara for my lashes. Moving on to lips now, I have the Hermes matte lipstick in the shade 62 Matte Rouge Fée. And I'm going to line my lips with the Pat McGrath Perma Gel Ultra Lip Liner in the shade Bloodlust. This is what the lipstick looks like. This is the top of the tube, has the H logo. And then the lipstick itself, I have already nicked it with my finger, but before I use it, I do want to show you on camera how it looks. It has Hermes embossed in the lipstick. Okay guys, this is the look. This is what I've come up with. This is the red lipstick that I bought from Hermes. I'm very happy with this color. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. It's very bold and in your face and appropriate for such a easy neutral look. It's a very forgiving, soft matte formula. There's not a lot of tugging or drying on the lips. As for the Chanel palette itself, I think I'll get an absolute lot of use out of this. Incredible use out of this. The palette itself, it's not as in your face. It's definitely a formula you'll need to build up, but that's what Chanel is known for. They don't really make punchy shades that are too strong on the first use. This palette itself though, I'll be able to get use out of this with every single shade. This shade actually made a very beautiful contour on me. Granted, I did have to build it up quite a bit on the cheekbone and on the nose. The colors built up nicely on the lid, but it did take me a few passes going around to get this depth. Although if you are if you have more mature lids, this might actually be a good thing for you. This might actually be an easier to work with formula. I know it's easier to build up than it is to take away, so this might be worth looking into it. This is actually limited edition. I know the last time I checked yesterday evening, it was still in stock at Nordstrom. I will link it down below though. I got mine from Nordstrom and it was $90. The colors worked great on the cheeks. The highlight shade is a little underwhelming for my personal preference. It does work though. Like I mentioned previously, The palette is great if you have more mature skin and you don't want a whole bunch of color on your face. If you want something easy for work, something easy that you can travel with, because this is a full face palette that you can use if you're my skin tone or even lighter, or maybe even just a shade or two darker, you can get away with using the whole palette, whether it's for contour or for the eyes and the cheeks. The palette itself, I think, is very versatile. As for the bronzer itself, I was so ready for this. I was so hyped for this. I bought it. I don't regret it. I was all over it when it was first shown on Instagram. I knew I had to have it. I remember Charlotte Holdcroft mentioning in one of her winter videos that, you know, she was using a bronzer she couldn't talk about just yet, and I was so curious what it was. This was the bronzer. The formula is buildable. I didn't have any problems building up the formula itself. The color, not as neutral as I was hoping. It's definitely a little more warm tone. I tend to go a little more neutral or cool toned with my bronzers. However, I can make it work. It's a little bit lighter than my Chanel bronzer. I didn't have any issues building it up. It actually, even after I finished placing all of the bronzer, it blended in with my natural skin tone so nicely that it doesn't look orangey on the face. It doesn't look out of place, so to speak. It kind of blends in and sits on the face nicely. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave it a like and comment down below on what your favorite piece was and if you're interested in picking up any of these products. Otherwise, that's it. That's what I've got. I really enjoyed this. I hope you did too. Do something for yourself today, because you are worth it. Bye.